I really hope that you've had this experience of somebody telling you that you are justified in feeling angry over something and feeling your shoulders relax. Like feeling your body untense when somebody tells you you're right. Because it's magical to feel that. It's like truly magical. So tell yourself you're right. Try it. You get angry over anything. Give yourself a moment, literally a minute and a half, to tell yourself you're right. That was worth getting angry over. And then your whole body will react. Your whole body will relax. And then you won't be so angry anymore because you validated your own emotions. You don't need someone else to do it for you. You can do that all by yourself. You can validate your own emotions.
Join me, 'cause I'm seeking sunshine, 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 I'm seeking sunshine.
Welcome to Seeking Sunshine, Do What Lights You Up, a podcast for passionate, creative moms who are ready to live their best life and be their full, lit-up selves while being amazing moms, because it's possible to be both. It turns out that you don't have to lose yourself in motherhood, and I'm here to show you how. This is Seeking Sunshine 2.0 because we are no longer focusing on the problems, but on the solutions. It's your turn to shine. Welcome back to the Seeking Sunshine podcast. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm excited to share this solo episode with you today. We're going to talk about my son, l'artiste, the vigilante, which is going to be a really fun story to share with you, and it really dives into how we can be more aware of our emotions and how we, especially as moms, but anybody who is alive, really, who struggles with, getting triggered by things not going your way, really, and how we can be aware, we can stop before we get, angry and have reactions to our triggers, and how we can just be better human beings overall. So we're going to dive into some really, great tools that will help you as you navigate emotions, which are going to center around this story of my son and how I have personally learned how to navigate this kind of emotional world that we live in. But before we dive into that, I wanted to remind you that my podcast course is out. I'm really, really excited for this because it was a lot of work, and it really represents so much knowledge that I poured into this course. It's going to teach you how you can create your own show right from your cell phone, how podcasting is really on a spectrum. You can have the most simple show, you can record it all in one take, which is actually what I'm going to do right here, right now, just for you. I am going to add a couple music bits, which will be fun, but I'm actually going to bake in the intro, which is this piece right here. I'm going to bake that into the whole bulk piece, and then I'm going to bake in the call to action at the end, and I'm not really going to edit anything. And this can be a really simple thing for you to do. And in the course, I teach you how this is possible for you. Like, you can just sit and talk to your phone, and you could do it while you're on a walk. You could do it while you're waiting in the car pickup line. You can do it, it can be flexible. Podcasting can fit into your life. And then I have a whole bunch of tutorials to show you, different apps and things that make this work on your phone. There's just, this course is packed full of different tutorials of, how to be a better storyteller, how to interview guests better, all sorts of things. It's a really, really amazing course that I've just packed so much value into. So I really encourage you to go check it out. The link is in the show notes, and I'm really excited for it. It's really a gift from my heart, and I think that you're going to love it. And if you want to go check it out, the first 2 videos are free, and you can go log in and just go watch those right now without any commitment. But I think that podcasting has been one of the most life-changing things that I've ever done. And so I'm really excited for that to be finally out in the world for everyone to get to finally see. So today, we are going to talk about our emotions and how important it is to pay attention to what we're feeling, and how we can use some tools to regulate our emotions so that we come out better for the people around us. And I gave this originally as a speech for Toastmasters. So the original version of what I'm going to tell you right now was 7 minutes long. But I'm not going to give you the 7-minute version. I'm going to give you the long version, because this is my podcast and I have a lot more to say. And I get to give you the long version. But the long version is more fun. It means you get more details. It means you get just all of the stuff. And so that's really awesome. So this whole thing, it started with being selfish. And I started out with, it was really fun because I get to tell you now about how my speech went, and my speech was super hilarious. I started off by telling people the S word was the title of my speech, and I didn't tell anyone what the S word was, and my introduction was all mysterious, and it was like the S word. Nobody wants to be called the S word. It's the worst thing a person can be called, and, it was really funny and mysterious. And then I got up there and I was like, okay, are we all adults here? Is everyone an adult? Okay, raise your hand if you're not an adult. Okay, good. Everyone is an adult. Watch out, because I'm going to say a bad word. Okay, it starts with an S. I think you all know what it is. Everyone say it with me. Selfish. And it's funny because I had a bunch of people starting to say an S word, and then when I got my evaluation, she was like, I had all these S words running through my head of what it could be. And I'm sitting here going, I can only think of like one other S word. Anyway, so that's the whole concept here, is we're talking about being selfish enough to pay attention to your own energy, to your own emotions, so that you can then be a better human being showing up in the world. And the context for this series of steps that I'm going to give you starts with my son Joshua. And if you have heard other episodes, or if you've heard my story before, then you might already know a little bit about Joshua. Joshua is my severely autistic 12-year-old, and he is type 1 diabetic, and he is semi-verbal. And I have since dubbed Joshua with a moniker, which is L'Artiste. And I have given him this name because he is obsessed with painting. He loves art. He actually has a lot of obsessions, which you might have heard of in the past, but currently he's really, really into painting. And he's always been very colorful and loved art and markers and coloring all over himself. But right now he's really into painting, and he loves painting because his dad paints a lot. And I have actually I have enjoyed painting in the past and have not painted recently because I'm so afraid of Joshua painting over my artwork like he has with his dad's. He has actually taken my husband's artwork off the walls and painted over it. And in a split second, by the way. Like, I'll be home and in the same room as him, and I'll literally turn around and these paintings will be completely covered and I'll be horrified. It's a thing. So anyways, Joshua is l'artiste. And I have called him this because his clothes are always covered in paint. And no, it does not come out in the wash. And yes, I will go buy him a whole new wardrobe. And within a week, it will all be covered in paint. Because I cannot seem to convince him to only wear the paint clothes that have been set aside for him to paint in. I will turn around and there will be paint all over him in the blink of an eye. It's magical how this happens. But also, he generally has paint all over his face. So he doesn't need a mask because his eyes are covered in, not his actual eyeballs, but like his face. Like, his eyes are covered in paint. Hopefully you get the gist of what I'm saying, because I actually have lots of gestures that go along with the speech, but it's hard to see that when you can't see me giving this speech. Anyways, so Joshua is l'artiste. He is the vigilante who is trying to rid my home of its colorlessness. And now he is not my archenemy personally, but he is the archenemy of my rental home in which I live. And as the caretaker of my rental home, that kind of puts us at odds with one another. And the other night, everyone had gone to bed, which I must say was a miracle because Joshua generally refuses to go to bed until I have gone to bed. But the other night, everyone had gone to bed, and I was finally at my time of night where I get to go shower and be by myself and have a little bit of alone time, and it was beautiful. I was all ready for this turn that I get to take in my evening to just have some silence. It was beautimous. So I got up from my chair and I walked into the bathroom, and what horror met my eyeballs. I screamed, I gasped, I let out my catchphrase, which if you're a mother and you don't know what your catchphrase is, ask your kids, because I'm sure that you have a catchphrase. Mine is, what the freaking crap happened, which I need to get better at saying that, but so I let out my catchphrase. That is the thing I say when I am unregulated. And I think I said something along the lines of, who murdered my bathroom? Or like, what died in here? Because my entire bathroom counter was covered in red paint. Oh, also the floor and the bench and everything. The whole bathroom covered, splattered with red paint. Because at some point, l'artiste had decided to wash up in my bathroom and, rid my bathroom of its colorlessness. And for the record, this has since happened with blue paint and gray paint and brown paint. This is not a one-time occurrence. He's trying to clean up after himself. Who can blame him? I mean, I did, right? So I had my initial reaction, and it's very much worth noting here that we all will have an initial reaction to something shocking. That is just what happens. You're going to have an automatic response, and it's not your fault. I mean, yeah, we're going to work on getting better at these responses, but it's not always something you can control. Your first response happens. It's the second reaction. It's the second response that you get to have control over. So I notice that my whole bathroom is covered in paint, and I have a reaction. But here we are at number one, which I'm going to get this right this time, but number one is the A of my ABCs of being selfish, and A stands for awareness. And my awareness was, oh, I'm having a reaction. It's awareness that I'm having a reaction. Awareness of something's happening in my body. It feels bad. I don't want to be feeling this way. And I'm feeling angry, and I'm feeling shocked, and I'm feeling violated. I'm feeling like my bathroom was violated, and my alone time was violated, and, all of the feelings that come racing in at once. And none of these feelings are wrong. They just are. So we have the first thing we're going to talk about, which is the A of the ABCs of selfishness, which is awareness. So I have this awareness. And if this was past me, if this was me who wasn't being aware, or maybe this is you, we often skip the awareness step and we go right into the yelling and the screaming and the getting upset or we go into martyrdom and we just start scrubbing angrily. I've definitely done that one before. The I'm sobbing, or the I'm angrily scrubbing, or something, or the screaming. I have in the past, I could have yelled at my husband. I could have yelled at my son. I could have just started yelling. There's all sorts of things that could have been my secondary reaction if I had not been aware of my first reaction. So the awareness part, it really is 90% of the answer here. Being aware is really, really, really so key. So the next thing I did, because I was aware, was I left the room and I went to my room. I went to the basement in my bedroom and I just breathed for a minute. I just went and I felt my feelings and I let myself have a reaction. I let myself be away from the trigger and just exist and let myself be angry. And I had these thoughts of well, of course I'm angry because I was going to go to bed right now and now I can't because my bedtime routine has been messed up. So of course I'm angry. We often like to invalidate our own emotions. And that's not fair to ourselves. I don't care what emotion you're having. It's valid. So stop invalidating your own emotions. Your emotions are valid. Yes, Joshua was not trying to hurt me. He was not trying to murder my bathroom. But it was still valid for me to feel upset by the occurrence. I still got to, it's okay for me to feel however I wanted to feel by what happened in this circumstance. So I was running through the thoughts because I had separated myself from the circumstance. I let myself work through my reaction, the first reaction. And I said, okay, I get to be upset. My whole nighttime routine was just disrupted. Now this has to be cleaned up before I get to bed. This is more work for me. Bunch of, huge mess. Right? I run through all of my angry thoughts. And here's the amazing thing. When you let yourself do that, the anger starts to dissipate. The initial reaction, it has one of two options. It can either fuel a bigger, badder secondary reaction, or you can let it work itself out and peter out on its own. And if you give it the attention that it is calling for in the first place, if you just step aside and you pay attention to your first reaction, it will dissipate in a minute or two. If you just validate your own emotions and your own thoughts surrounding the thing, they will start to dissipate. If you can sit there for a minute or two and tell yourself, oh, I deserve to feel mad here. I deserve, like, it's okay for me to feel this way. Your whole body goes from tense to, like, it literally relaxes. Like, all of that stress and anger and, like, oh, I can't believe this just happened. Like, that stress, that tenseness from that first reaction, it melts away as soon as it's told it's allowed to exist. And I kid you not, like, you have to try this for yourself, maybe, to know that I'm really telling you the truth. But I've experienced it so many times that I promise you this is true. If you can be aware of your initial reaction and allow it to exist and to be okay, it will dissipate. It will disappear as soon as you start allowing it to be. So I left the room, the bathroom that had been murdered, and I went to my basement, and I just, like, breathed into my anger for a minute, and it was like, I'm so angry that this happened. Like, yeah, I deserve to be angry. And then it was like, oh, yeah, I do. And then my shoulders relaxed, and it was like, oh, okay. And I really hope that you've had this experience of somebody telling you that you are justified in feeling angry over something and feeling your shoulders relax. Of, like, feeling your body untense when somebody tells you you're right. Because it's magical to feel that. It's, like, truly magical. So tell yourself you're right. Try it. You get angry over anything. Give yourself a moment, literally a minute and a half, to tell yourself, you're right. That was worth getting angry over. And then your whole body will react. Your whole body will relax. And then you won't be so angry anymore because you validated your own emotions. You don't need someone else to do it for you. You can do that all by yourself. You can validate your own emotions. So I did that. And then I enlisted my husband's help. And he came upstairs and he helped me clean up the bathroom. And we didn't wake up Josh. And we didn't wake up the rest of the house with yelling and screaming. And we didn't have a big secondary reaction, which I can tell you that in the past would have totally happened. There have been so many experiences. I mean, parenthood really presents you over and over and over and over again with opportunities to practice this exact format. Okay? So, step 1, which is the A of the ABCs, is awareness. The second one, which is the B of the ABCs, step 2, is boundaries. So the boundaries step can actually look a multitude of ways. So it can look preventatively. I could have locked up all the paint in advance and made sure that l'artiste did not have access to all that paint. Now, apparently, I did not do this, and I did not take good precautionary preventative measures. However, I do know that l'artiste really lights up when he gets to paint. He really loves painting, so I want him to be his whole artistic self, and that often means that I get lots of practice at controlling my emotions, and so does my husband. So we've been trying to have boundaries around how much paint he gets and teaching him about cleaning up paint, but it's a slow process. We're working on it. He is severely autistic, and it's taking a little longer to teach him about cleanliness and painting over other people's paintings. It's taking us some time to teach him the proper ways to deal with paint, right? So boundaries can look preventative. It can look like locking up paint or really, really being on top of like, okay, you only paint in this outfit, or you only paint at this table, and you only wash up at this sink. In an ideal world, I would have a, cement room with a sink, and he only paints in that room. And someday, in my dream house, that is going to be a thing. But right now, that's not a thing. And we're just doing our best to work in the environment in which we are finding ourselves. So boundaries can be preventative. Boundaries can also be in the moment. So you might have noticed in my awareness section, I talked about putting a boundary kind of around myself. I took a physical step away from the environment in which I was in. I put a boundary around myself when I was not in a good place. So if L'artiste had been awake in that moment and been staring me down and yelling at me about the paint, I would have had a much more difficult time stepping away and controlling myself. And I know this from experience, by the way. This is because I've done this a lot with him. It's extra hard to keep your boundaries when the trigger keeps on triggering. So it's a really good point to make here is knowing yourself is absolutely essential, and knowing how you react to the triggers around you is essential, and then what helps with those triggers. So like for me, a really good boundary to some of my triggers, like one of my big triggers is that Josh is really loud a lot, and he kind of likes to like yell in my face a lot. So a good boundary for me is wearing headphones with like meditation music a lot, where I can still hear him and he can still talk to me and I can still respond to him. But there's a barrier, and it's not a barrier that he can see and that he can perceive, but it's a physical, well, it's not physical, it's a auditorial boundary between what I'm perceiving as an attack. Like it really feels, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but it feels like an attack on my nervous system when he sits and yells at me all day. It feels like an attack. And so I have this boundary of the headphones, which literally actually physically block out some noise, which earplugs would do the same thing. And then I have the music playing, which actually calms my nervous system. So this is a really great example of a boundary. And you have to know yourself, and you have to know the things that are triggering you. But the boundaries part of this, in my story with the bathroom sink, was that I physically put a boundary around myself when I was processing what had happened with the paint. Like I took myself away from the situation and isolated myself in a room, away from Joshua, away from the paint and the bathroom and the whole thing. And I put myself in an isolated room, bubble space, with a boundary around me so that I could have my 2 minutes of, I'm right to be angry. It's okay to be angry. That hurt me. I just want to go to bed right now. I get to be angry. Oh, it's okay to feel like that? Oh, now I can go handle it because I validated my emotions. But that boundary piece, it's so important. It's so helpful. So if you are struggling with boundaries, start looking at creative ways that you can help yourself with boundaries. And I don't know if you're thinking that it's selfish to have boundaries, but be selfish. Be selfish with your boundaries. Add some more boundaries. Say no. Give yourself space. If a bath calms you down, go take a bath. If, meditation music in your earbuds calms you down, give yourself that gift. If you need a 5-minute walk or 10-minute walk around the block, go do it. I do a 20 to 30 minute meditation every afternoon And I will do it if my kids are home or not. And I very frequently have to tell them, I'm taking a break and you need to respect. And my other two understand what I'm doing, and Joshua does not. And so I have to reinforce to him, like, I'm taking a break right now. I'm not talking right now. This is not the time to come talk to me. You need to wait. And so throughout my whole meditation, I'm taking a break. You need to wait. And it's a really essential part. I'm really relying on that to get me through spring break and summer break. And I'm sitting here, I didn't actually start doing my 2 daily, because I now do one every morning and I do one every afternoon before Josh gets home off the bus. And sometimes I don't make that afternoon one, it doesn't get done until after he's off the bus. And then there's Saturdays, and sometimes he doesn't have school. So those are the days when I'm telling him I need a break. But on those days when he's home, it's really helpful. And I didn't start my 2 daily meditation practice until last Christmas. And I'm really thinking it's going to be a huge help to me over spring break and over summer break. So I would totally recommend that. Whatever it is you need for your mental health and mental clarity, especially, I know for me personally, summer break, I have a hard time with summer break. I get really overstimulated, and within the first few weeks, I can see myself deteriorating and having a really hard time because it's just so much overstimulation and not nearly enough alone time. So that's where these boundaries come in. What are your needs? Because the more that you understand your needs and you prioritize those, you're gonna be a better human being for your kids, for your family, for everyone around you, because you won't be showing up as the angry, bitter mom. You'll be showing up as the patient, loving, fun mom. That's why it's so important to be selfish, which I know a lot of people are triggered by that word and hate that word. And that's why I started this off by calling it the bad word that no one wants to be. But that's the whole point here, is the more you prioritize your own self-care, your own mental health, your own needs, you really do show up better. You really do, your energy's better. You're just a better human being for everybody that you want to be around. And don't you want to show up as the best version of yourself for your family? I know I do. So the third step, which is C for the ABCs of selfishness, is it's control and consequences. It's both of those C words. It's you're able to maintain control, and you don't, and the consequences of this initial trigger are good. You have good consequences. There's the negative consequences are mitigated, right? Because you're able to maintain control over your own emotions, over your own energy, because you went through the awareness and the boundaries. You went through all these steps that we talked about. So in my l'artiste example, I was aware that I had a reaction, and then I validated my reaction, and I set my boundaries, and I took myself out of the space so that I could validate, that I deserved to be mad about what happened. And then doing so allowed me to feel my feelings and relax and be able to handle the cleanup. That's what I mean by control, because I felt the things I needed to feel. Literally, it's just a minute or two. You validate your feelings, and then just oh, okay. It just makes the world, it makes a world of difference. So then I was able to come back upstairs with my husband and help clean it all up and go through my morning routine or my evening routine. And that's wherein the control lies. Because in the past, I would have felt this overwhelming urge to scream at everybody to wake Joshua up and punish him for his behavior, which, again, Joshua is severely autistic. He's, semi-verbal. He literally did not understand that he had done anything wrong. In fact, I feel very certain that Joshua's actions, he was trying to be good. He went in the bathroom with his paintbrush and tried to clean up the paint. He tried to clean up his paintbrush, and in doing so, he splattered paint all over my whole bathroom. Like, from his perspective, which I could only see after I was calm, I could only see after I allowed myself to have a reaction, Joshua's actions came from a really good place because he's actually a really good kid. Joshua's actually like such a sweetheart. I actually love that kid so much. He was trying to clean up his paint mess, and in doing so, he made a humongous mess. And because I allowed myself to feel those feelings, I was able to control my reaction and control the consequences of my own behavior so that he didn't have to deal with a mom who was bitter and angry, who was the martyr, because I was in control, because I chose to be selfish. I didn't take out my behavior. I didn't take out my anger on him, who didn't really deserve it. So, another side story here that I want to add on is the story of, it's still Joshua, but he painted over one of my husband's paintings. Okay, he painted over several. He literally took them off of the wall and covered them up. And it was heartbreaking. And I don't even, it literally was in a split second. I didn't see it till it was done. And I literally, I don't even know. I must have run to the bathroom and I came back and it was done. And it was one of those things where you're I blinked and it happened and I don't know how. And I felt so bad because my husband had worked really hard on his paintings and it was just not fixable. And I'm not talking a little bit of paint. I'm talking layers and layers of dark blue paint over his art he'd just loved and worked so hard on it. It actually had happened several times and my husband had a number of different reactions, but one of his reactions was that he cried over it because he loved this painting. And we had this whole exchange of him going, I tried to fix it. I got a magic eraser out and I tried to magic eraser the paint off of the painting, which he had been doing the day before with a different painting that Joshua had painted over. And he kept trying to tell me to stop trying to fix it and just let him be upset. Just let him feel it. And I wasn't really listening because, well, first of all, I wasn't listening and I was just trying to fix it. And once I stopped and realized that I wasn't listening, I started to understand why. And it was because I felt so bad about the painting and I felt like it was my fault and I wanted to fix it. And I started to realize that I was acting out of, not because of what he wanted, but because of what I wanted. I felt so bad that I wanted to fix what I deemed to be my fault. And he was totally right. And he was saying, I just need to grieve. I just need to feel these feelings and then it will be fine. And it was just, it's so eye-opening to me. We need to practice this so often. And I'm certainly not perfect at it. We really have to practice this, these 3 steps. But again, awareness, that first step, it really is 90% of the problem, because what I was doing when his painting had been painted over and I just wanted to fix it was I was not being aware that I wasn't even listening to my husband or what he actually wanted. And it took an argument before I was even aware that I was on autopilot doing what I wanted without listening. That awareness piece is so key. And without it, none of the rest can happen. So I want you to give yourself so much grace and so much like permission to cheer yourself on if you have a big reaction and even a secondary reaction, and you just look back on your behavior and you are aware. Because even looking back on your own reactions and behaviors and triggers, the awareness is so important, and that is a humongous step. The awareness is so big. And the more that you can even look back on your own mistakes and be like, oh my gosh, I'm aware. I'm aware that I had that reaction, that I don't really want to have that kind of reaction. I'm aware that that didn't feel good. I'm aware that I did this and this and this. Like, that's huge. It's a key piece, and you deserve so much credit for being aware. That is a humongous step, and give yourself grace and credit for being aware, because if you can be aware of something you did yesterday, you're going to be so much closer to being aware before you get further in that process next time. The awareness is absolutely amazing. So we had this whole thing with my husband's paintings getting painted over. And then, and we've been feeling really kind of frustrated in general with the whole artiste and the paint being, it's, the bathroom is not the only problem here. It's also my whole kitchen table is just ruined, and the floors and the counters were constantly scraping and scrubbing paint off of them, and the kitchen sink, in the back patio, there's paint everywhere. It's been a huge problem. And then Joshua said something that just broke our hearts wide open in the most beautiful way. And remember, Josh is very semi-verbal. I think they said that he has the understanding of a second grader. He says 3 and 4 word sentences. I don't know. He's very semi-verbal. He's not so much of a communicator as he likes to demand things. Also, after he paints these paintings, he puts them by the front door for Dad to take to work. And because my husband likes to paint, and then he will hang them up, his paintings, at his office. And Josh will go put his own paintings in the back of the car for Dad to take to work. And the other day, and what's really funny is, and awful and funny, is he'll take his paintings right after he's finished painting them, and they won't be dry at all. They'll be soaking wet. These paintings, these big, huge, canvases, sopping wet, not dry at all. And he'll go try to hand it to you, or he'll put it right by the front door. He got paint all over my husband's snow coat, and I had to scrub it off really quickly so it didn't destroy his snow coat. Joshua's snow coat is rainbow now. It's just covered in paint, because that was a lost cause right from the start. But he went up to his dad and he said, "Art show, Dad's work," and handed him a painting, which may or may not have been his brother's painting. He painted over and took off the wall, but he handed him a painting he had made. And he handed it to his dad, and he said, "Art show, Dad's work, art show." And he handed it to his dad to hang on the wall in Dad's office. And we just looked at each other, and our hearts just melted, because we love that kid so much. And we love his artistic soul, even though it is kind of driving us a little bit nuts. And parenting it's tough. It's really tough, and it'll teach you so much about your own emotions and your own triggers. So I hope that this story and that these examples of how you can be triggered. You can be really triggered by messes and by your things being destroyed. And you can learn about yourself, and you can learn about your emotions and how to be a better human being because of these triggers. Like, what a gift, right? What a gift these triggers really, really are. They are such a gift. Thank you so much for coming and listening to my story today. I'm sitting here watching Les Artistes do more of what he does, which is paint beautiful artwork, both on the canvas and all over my table. And he is just in the zone, having the time of his life. And it is, it's kind of miraculous to watch. It really is. It's beautiful. So here are my favorite takeaways from this episode. Number 1, here's the amazing thing. When you let yourself feel your anger, it starts to dissipate. The initial reaction can either fuel a bigger, badder secondary reaction, or you can let it work itself out on its own. If you give it the attention that it's calling for in the first place, it will dissipate in a minute or two. If you just validate your own emotions and your own thoughts, they will start to dissipate. Number 2, I hope you've had the experience of somebody telling you that you are justified in feeling angry over something and feeling your shoulders relax, of feeling your body untense. When somebody tells you that you're right, because it's magical to feel that. It's truly magical. So tell yourself you're right. You don't need someone else to do it for you. You can do it all by yourself. You can validate your own emotions. Number 3, knowing yourself is absolutely essential. Knowing how you react to the triggers around you is essential, as well as what helps with those triggers. Number 4, what are your needs? The more that you understand your needs and you prioritize those, you're going to be a better human being for your kids, for your family, for everyone around you, because you won't be showing up bitter. You'll be showing up as patient, loving, and fun. Number 5, the more you prioritize your own self-care, your own mental health, your own needs, you really do show up better. Your energy is better. You're just a better human being for everyone you want to be around. Don't you want to show up as the best version of yourself? Number 6, the awareness piece is so key, and without it, none of the rest can happen. Give yourself so much grace and so much permission to cheer yourself on, even if you look back on your behavior and you're just aware, because even looking back on your reactions is a huge step. And number 7, awareness is absolutely amazing. You can't fix something you're not aware of. Thank you again for coming and listening, and if this story of, my own process of working through my emotions, as I've dealt with motherhood and all of the different parts of being a mom and my emotions and all the stuff we talked about in the story. If that has helped you navigate your own journey in any way, I would appreciate it if you would share this with somebody who you think it might help too, because I think that the more that we can be really authentic and honest and share what's actually going on, that everyone else can go, oh, hey, like, it's okay to show up as our real, true selves, because it really is. The more that we show up authentically, the more we unconsciously allow everybody else to do the same. Isn't that something like Brene Brown said or something? Anyway, so check out the show notes for all the links for all the things. I've got my website link. I've got my Snippet of Sunshine link. I've got my course link if you're interested in starting your own podcast. All the links, all the things. And I'm going to leave you there. I hope that you have an amazing day. I'm going to end with a song, which is a really fun one from my album. It's called Apathy, and I actually wrote this song over a year ago, maybe even borderline 2 years ago, and I wrote this song. It's a love song to apathy, and it's all about well, it was a less healthy way of coping with my emotions when my kids were breaking my things. And I would turn to apathy. So this was kind of the way that I was coping a couple years ago before I kind of knew these better methods. So enjoy the song because it's still a really fun song, even though I know better now.
Dear apathy, I need you here with me. You calm the tears I cry. I go up and I go down with my emotions. Dear apathy, they say you're wrong for me, but I just don't care. I'm afraid that it's far away. It's so